Hey there, guys and gals. We're almost done with chapter 1 from Algebra 2. We're in the penultimate lesson, solving inequalities. This, like pretty much everything in this chapter, is also probably review from Algebra 1. We get those cobwebs all dusted off. We're just going to do a handful of examples. We're going to jump straight in with examples and get it going, and then we'll be done with this lesson. All right, so we're going to solve an inequality, and we're going to graph solution on a number line. One of the biggest differences between solving a equation and an inequality is that last thing. We need to represent it with a picture, because that's the only real way to actually describe the answer properly, because the answer isn't just a single number, right? So the way we solve these is we're going to do them just like they were a equation. So we're basically going to pretend like this less than symbol is the same as an equals, with one or two exceptions, which we'll see in other examples here real soon. There's one exception to that. Other than that, we treat this just like it's an equals. They're pretty straight. These are pretty straightforward problems. Excuse me. So we look at this and we look at what's attached to this y, and then we do the inverse or the opposite to get rid of it, right? So this 6 is attached through subtraction, so we're going to add to get rid of it. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. Easy peasy, right? So then we end up with y is less than 3. In case for some reason, since this is still kind of review-ish, in case for some reason you don't know the directions of the symbols, this is greater than, points to the right. The way, well, on my screen, that's, on the screen, that's the right, but whatever. The one way I help people remember is that there are more right-handed people, which is this hand for me, but over here there are more right-handed people in the world, so the greater than symbol points to the right? So that's a way to remember it. So that's greater than, that's less than, that's greater than or equal to, and that's less than or equal to, right? Getting those cobwebs dust off. And of course, this is straight up equals. That one we almost certainly know, right? Easy peasy. Simple, right? So this is part of the answer. Now we need to graph that solution on a number line. So let's do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a number line. Now for Algebra 2, on these particular problems, especially in Algebra 1, sometimes I like more context. But in Algebra 2, especially on these, when there's just a single number, on the excuse me. In Algebra 2, in the next lesson, there will be more complicated. We'll have stuff graphing outside and inside and all these different things. But on these, in Algebra 2, we're going to go for just a really simple approach. We're going to put the number we're graphing on there. So we're going to put a 3, and then we're going to put either an open or a closed circle. Next year in pre-cal, we'll use interval notation. But for now, we're just going to use regular open and closed circle notation. So if it is either less than or greater than, it's an open circle. If it's or equal to, we're going to put a filled in circle. So in this case, it's open because it's just less than. And if it's less than, we're going to shade to the left, right? No big deal. There it is. At problems, easy peasy. Let's do another one. We've got 3 total examples in this particular lesson. It should be a fairly quick one. All right, so we're going to hit this one just the exact same way. We're going to rewrite the problem, right? So negative 4.2 x is less than or equal to negative 29.4. So we're going to look at what's attached to the x, and we're going to do the opposite to get rid of it. Now, you may, if you're remembering some of the things and the cobwebs are kind of auto-dusting a little bit, you may already spy in this particular problem the one major place where doing an inequality is different than an equation. So let's do it. So we are going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by negative 4.2, right? 4.2. Right? So we're left with x on this side. Now, this is the part that we need to remember. If we either multiply or divide both sides of an inequality, it takes that inequality and it flips it around, right? And so Instead of a less than, this is going to turn into a greater than or equal to. Now, that's a tricky division problem. You may want to do that on the calculator. I would if I were you. So you're going to pull up your calculator and do. Now, I've said this before in class. I can't remember if I've said this before in a video, but my recommendation, you notice that I didn't put in negative 29.4 here, right? My recommendation is to memorize those integer rules if you haven't already. Probably by Algebra 2, you at least have a fair degree of awareness. But remember that a negative divided by a negative is positive. And so let your brain do the positives and negatives and let the calculator take care of just the menial tasks of doing those things. You'll make less mistakes, and it'll have you more mentally engaged with your problems. And so that's what I recommend a lot of the time. Sometimes I do put a negative into the calculator, but most of the time, do the negatives in your head and do the arithmetic part on the calculator, right? So hit enter, we get a 7. So our answer is x is greater than or equal to 7. I drew that weird. How about that? That looks a little bit better. So we're going to graph this guy on a number line, draw our number line. We're going to put our tick mark at 7. We're going to do a filled in circle this time because it's greater than or equal to, right? That little line means we fill it in. We're going to shade to the right because it's greater than. Right? No big deal. Let's do one more example, kind of put a few things together, and then we'll be done with this lesson. So I'm going to write down the problem. Oops. Negative 4c is less than or equal to 5c plus 58 all over 6. So there's a lot of things going on. So we're trying to solve for c here, right? So we're going to want to get this c and smoosh them together, right? We're going to want to get those buddies together, but unfortunately, there's a big fat bully on this c that is just picking on this whole side, right? This 6 is divided into everything. And so he's the biggest thug. So, we're going to pretend like we're in prison and we're going to go punch the biggest thug square in the face to establish our dominance over this math. I don't know. The metaphor breaks down. But this 6 is bugging us. So we're going to get rid of it first because it's attached to everything over here. So it's going to make our lives a lot easier if we get rid of it. So how is this 6 attached to all of this? Well, fractions are the same as division, right? So the inverse of dividing is multiplying. The opposite of division is multiplication, right? And so we're going to multiply 6 on both sides. So times 6 and times 6. These ones cancel. And then 6 times negative 4c is, in fact, negative 24c. We still have less than or equal to. Now, you notice there's a negative, so you might be tempted, well, we multiplied a negative, we got to flip it. Well, the one that we did on both sides, this guy right here, he was positive, right? So we're not going to flip anything here. We're just going to leave it the way it is, right? So we're going to bring down what we haven't touched on this right-hand side. So we're going to bring down 5c plus 58, right? Now, we've got these friends here, right? We got these friends that are separated by a chasm. I don't know. We're trying the metaphors. Is it helping? I don't know, right? So we got to get these guys together. So we want to move this one from one side to the other side. Anytime we are moving a whole term, it's either going to be addition or it's going to be subtraction. Either way, right? So this one, since it's positive, in order to get rid of it on this side, we're going to subtract the whole thing. So we're going to subtract by 5c. Now now that we reminded you of the rules with negatives and all that stuff, and you may be tempted again to flip this around. Well, that's only for multiplication or division. We're subtracting, right? So only for multiplication and division. So we're going to subtract this. We got signs that are same here. So we're going to add and keep the sign. 24 plus 5 is 29. So it's negative 29c is less than or equal to 58. Now you notice we got a negative over here and about to divide it. So now we're gonna use that thing. So we've got a 29 over here. So we got to get him over there. So to get rid of that, we're going to divide both sides by negative 29. Okay, so this time we are going to flip it. And actually, before I even go to the calculator, I'm going to go ahead and flip it now. That way I don't forget. Sometimes that can be a good idea, especially if like like me, you have ADHD tendencies and you forget stuff if you don't do it right away. Sometimes going ahead and writing stuff down before you even change spaces, that can be a helpful thing, especially in that case. So we're going to take and we're going to divide it out, pull our calculator over, do 58 divided by 29. Now you see, again, I didn't put the negative in there. I just remember that the signs are different, and so my answer is going to come out negative, right? So we're going to get a negative 2, right? So that's part of our answer. Now we're going to graph that on a number line. Let's pop our number line in here. We're going to stick a negative 2. Now we're going to do an open circle or closed circle. Think about it. What are we going to do? You got it? Yeah, I know you do. You're so brilliant. We're going to do a filled in circle because it is greater than or equal to. Since it's greater than, we're going to shade to the right because that's where our numbers are going up. And that is it for this lesson. If you're one of my students, I'll see you in class or on our Discord channel or whatever else. If you're not one of my students, hope this was helpful to you. Let us know how else we can help you with math, science, general homeschooling, or any of those other things. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.